Welcome back to CPAC Hot Air Town Hall coverage here at Bloggers Row. Standing with me, Senate candidate Ted Cruz from Texas. And Ted, first off, it's great to see you again.
It's great to be with you.
We've chatted often. How are things going in Texas now?
The race is going fantastic. We have momentum it's off the charts. We have seen conservatives all over Texas unite behind this race, and we've seen conservatives nationally unite behind this race. You know, this Texas Senate race is ground zero in the battle between the Tea Party and the moderate establishment. And this is going to be the test for our movement nationally, and I'll tell you, it has been incredible the support we've been getting from all over the country.
And CPAC is a great place to have that debate about establishment versus grassroots. This is sort of a different take on the grassroots. Try to explain to people who don't know the ins and outs of the conservative movement. The Tea Party is one set of grassroots. The activists who come to CPAC are another set of grassroots. There is some overlap there, but they're really two distinct, different groups, right?
Look, it comes down to the people, and the grassroots activists come from a whole spectrum. You've got Tea Party activists, you've got Republican women, you've got college Republicans, you've got activists, you've got precinct chairs. It's the people on the ground who are knocking on doors, who are making phone calls, who are sending emails, who are blogging, who are engaged in the battle of ideas. And as you know, the stakes have never been higher. Yes. Our liberty is being assaulted in an unprecedented manner. And if we don't stand up right now and fight for our liberty, we will lose it. And it depends on the people, because the establishment ain't going to do anything to stop it.
Now, here's an interesting thing, this week especially, because we hear this a lot, liberty's at stake, liberty's at stake.
Yep.
In one way, liberty is always at stake because you have to be vigilant about these things. But it became a lot more real and acute the last couple of weeks here because of the HHS mandate for contraception for religious organizations. First off, you're an attorney. Do you see a sliver there in the First Amendment that allows the federal government to have that kind of a mandate?
Look, what President Obama is trying to do is just outrageous. I wrote a blog on our website, tedcruz.org, talking about this. This policy embodies three of the very worst characteristics of the Obama administration. Number one, their continued assault on the Constitution. Number two, their repeated disdain for religious liberty, their contempt for religious liberty. And number three, their never-ending consolidation of power in the federal government. Look, this is the necessary consequence of a government takeover of health care. It means bureaucrats in Washington decide what your health care decisions are rather than it being between you and your doctor. And it means the arrogance of this decision for the president to say he knows better and he has the right to dictate to people of faith to ignore their faith, ignore the teaching of their faith, and defy their religious beliefs because the government has mandated this is what they must do. It's the height of arrogance, it's unconstitutional, and it's wrong.
The EWTN, which is a television network that was founded by a cloistered nun, Mother Angelica, has filed suit. I believe it's the first entity to file suit on the basis of this. As an attorney, what do you think the chances of success for this lawsuit are?
I think there is a significant chance of success. Look, our Constitution was formed, our nation was formed by men and women fleeing religious persecution. And the Constitution, it's not an accident that the Bill of Rights begins with the First Amendment that protects our religious liberty, because it was the first liberty, the right to seek God and to follow God according to the dictates of your conscience without the government putting its heavy foot on the back of your neck. This president displays an arrogance that he thinks Washington bureaucrats know better than your priest or your pastor or than your conscience and soul reading the scriptures and seeking God. And that goes contrary to the foundations of our nation. It goes contrary to the protections of religious liberty that are at the heart of our Constitution.
And I want to continue on this because you say it's a pattern, it's part of the Obama administration. Isn't it true that this is exactly the same type of thing that they're doing with economic policy? They're dictating who's going to get which energy resource we're going to champion, which ones we're going to penalize, not just through stimulus packages, but also through EPA regulation
Yes.
and all sorts of other types of regulation as well. But the EPA is really the epicenter of a lot of this. It's the same type of approach, right?
It's exactly right, and what we desperately need is strong conservative leaders in the Senate who can stand up and lead the fight. You know, one of the things I talk about all the time is a proven conservative record. Talk's cheap. We need fighters who have a record, who've been, you know, if you're really a conservative, Ed, you shouldn't have to tell anyone.
Right.
I mean, the scriptures tell us you shall know them by their fruit. And if you're really a conservative, you will have been in the foxholes. You will bear the stripes of the fight. You take something like Obama and the EPA. When the Obama administration put the offshore drilling moratorium in place, I represented the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and 29 chambers of commerce up and down the Gulf Coast challenging that in federal court. The Federal Court of Appeals agreed with us it was contrary to federal law. Now, following the pattern we just discussed, Obama just reissued the moratorium and stopped granting permits. But we need fighters, and that's what this race is all about. Are we going to have strong conservative fighters in the Senate who lead the fight? That's why I'm running. It's why we're building a conservative army nationwide, and it's why I need your help.
TedCruz.org is where you can find out more about Ted Cruz. You can also go back and look at our archives. All I have to do is do a search on Ted Cruz. We've written a lot about Ted. Ted's talked to us an awful lot. A great conservative candidate in Texas. Of course, we're going to be cheering you on, Ted, and hopefully you're going to be able to prevail in the primary, prevail in the general election. Ted, anything else that we can talk about here?
Well, you know, I will say, if you look at the U.S. Senate today, the four strongest conservatives in the U.S. Senate, in my opinion, are Senator Jim DeMint, Senator Mike Lee, Senator Rand Paul, and Senator Pat Toomey. I am incredibly honored and humbled to be the only candidate in the country supported by all four of them. And every one of them gave the same reason when they endorsed me. They said, we need reinforcements. They're outnumbered by Democrats, and they're outnumbered, sadly, by fellow Republicans who don't stand and fight. And the Senate's at a tipping point. You know, a lot of conservatives are understandably dismayed by the state of the presidential race right now. And a great many conservatives are coming to agree with Senator Jim DeMint that regardless of what happens in the presidential race, the Senate's the battleground.
Right.
If you want to repeal Obamacare, the Senate will be the battleground. If you want to dramatically shrink the size and power of the federal government, the Senate's the battleground. If you want to audit the Federal Reserve, if you want to secure the border, if you want to enact fundamental tax reform, the Senate's the battleground. And we're at a tipping point. If we can grow the number of strong constitutional conservatives from 6 or 7 up to 10 or 12 or 15, it will transform the U.S. Senate. Now, in my race, I'm running against a moderate establishment incumbent who's independently wealthy and has $200 million.
Right.
We've raised over $4 million, but it's come from over 13,000 donors in all 50 states. I would ask every one of you, if you think it's important to have strong conservative fighters in the Senate, please go to tedcruz.org. Sign up online, join us on Facebook, join us on Twitter, and make a contribution. A big one if you can, but if not, give $10 or $25 or $50 and get 10 of your friends to do the same. If we continue to raise the money we need, we're going to win this race. And I'll make a commitment to you, when we win this race, Texas is going to lead the fight. We are going to be standing up front, leading the fight to stop the Obama agenda, to dramatically shrink the size and power of the federal government, to restore the Constitution. I need your help, and together we're going to lead this fight, and together we're going to turn this nation around.
TedCruz.org. Ted Cruz is the candidate. I'm Ed Morrissey from HotAir.com. We'll be back with more from CPAC.